Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Get Up and Scale podcast alongside Kai Capro and Brett Ridenour. We've got Dustin today from Conversion Assist. On our last episode, Dustin, I don't know if you heard it or not yet, but we were talking a little bit about you because I had mentioned to them the big CRM project you helped out with and all of that. So we're excited to have you on here to hear it straight from you on how useful having, a CRM, just something to constantly communicate with your customers and all of the cool functionalities and tools and features and stuff like that you've built into Conversion Assist. So thanks for joining us today. We're super excited to have you.
I gotta work, grind. That's just the way it is. I gotta get up, scale, and grow my biz. I gotta scale, grow, get up, go, scale, grow, get up, go.
Thanks, man. I appreciate the invite. And I have not heard that podcast yet, but I want to go check it out right away.
Cool.
That's inexcusable.
All right,
I've been keeping up on your Get Up and Scale.
Everyone on the planet has heard that podcast. What do you mean?
That's right.
That's right. Yeah, it's mentioned apparently.
Yeah, man. I feel like I've mentioned you a few times on a couple recent things just because of how excited I've been for having something that just extends the customer journey beyond the one email, the one text message that people can't reply to from a booking software, right? So I'm super excited to have you on so that we can hear more about that. And honestly, and I think the first question for me is how did you even get into this? Because, travel is a very niche industry and you could be doing this in so many other industries. What brought you to travel?
Yeah, I mean, originally, I've had a marketing agency for over a decade. And so the whole idea behind what we're doing with Conversion Assist is answering a problem that we had on the marketing side, which is you can run the best campaign in the world, but if you don't have somebody that will follow up, answer the phone, do a good job trying to connect to leads or turning clicks into leads, your campaign is going to be crap, right? I mean, it doesn't matter how good you do how good of a job you do. If that customer is not going to take it to the next step to actually make money, you're not going to be successful. So this was kind of started off that way. And when it comes to travel and tourism and, water sports and activities, I decided a few years ago that since I've marketed pretty much everything and most things I really did not enjoy them. I didn't have any passion about it. I'm like, you know what? We're going to focus on something that's actually going to be fun, that people are going to enjoy, that most of my best memories are on vacation with my wife on a cruise doing something fun or doing rappelling off the side of a building in Miami or going parasailing or doing this. I'm like, let's just focus things there, So that was kind of on the marketing side. And then, of course, that problem about people not following up with their leads or not, communicating with their customers well was a very real problem because as you guys, I don't have to tell you, but a lot of times an issue is that they're missing calls or missing out on revenue. And then they're complaining about, they want to spend more money on ads. Well, why don't you plug the hole in the bucket first and then decide if you need to spend more money on ads? And sometimes you do. You have to do both. But it doesn't make sense to spend more money on ads when you're missing out on opportunities every day because you can't get to the phone or because you miss a call and you never call people back or they send a form for an inquiry and nobody ever responds to them or it takes them a week to get a response, right? Things like that. So that's kind of how it started off. It's just really, I was getting bored of doing things that were just not very fulfilling in terms of what we were marketing. And I still do that. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I still love my customers and I'm not opposed to it. It's just that if you're going to do something, I wanted to grow in a particular direction and that's what we chose. So that's how we got here.
That's cool. And so the marketing agency is separate from Conversion Assist? Okay.
Yeah, that's PPC Pros. So we've been doing that for a long time. So
yep. And so is that something, where are you spending most of your time right now? If you could put a percentage on PPC Pros compared to Conversion Assist.
I mean, I'm probably 60% in Conversion Assist. And the reason why is because I have a much bigger team on the ad side. We've been around for a decade. I've got people that can handle a lot. I still handle a lot of the strategy. I still get involved, of course. I still want things to go well there. But because Conversion Assist is this newer, I guess, compared to a decade or 11 years, newer, kind of always changing thing. We're working AI into stuff right now. It just requires a lot more of that kind of founder's time and vision. And that's where most of that time is going. And then just making sure things are going well and creating, good opportunities for where we're going to go and things like that. So it's really just more from that perspective. Like from a amount of work side, we have a lot more work when you're an agency, right? Because you're doing things every single day in campaigns. Where for conversion assists, our big heavy lift is getting people off the ground, and a lot of times things will self-manage, or people are managing the system, right? Because our thing is putting a system in place that they can take and run with, and if they want to make it better and they want to add to it, that's great. But you don't really have to unless you want to, right? So that's really the goal, is not for it to be an ongoing process that we have to continually change for every customer. We're going to update the system, and as we find out new things that we that work for a lot of different operators, we can implement them for everybody at the same time if we want, right? So that's kind of the approach we're taking there. Is just like bigger chunks of things, and we can just pass them on to different customers when we feel like they're ready, which we're doing right now with some of the AI stuff.
This problem of operators not doing the fundamentals when it comes to converting customers, right? Like responding to emails, answering phone calls. Do you think this is unique to the tour industry, or is this just something you see all over the place with any small business?
It's everywhere. It's home services. We still have a lot of clients from
Yeah.
agency and home services, e-commerce even. E-commerce is probably ahead of the curve for a lot of this stuff because
Right.
it's just a digital situation. You can automate so much, but it's everywhere. It's everywhere. And it's also, I feel like, the lowest hanging fruit. Because I don't even have to probably tell you guys, but home services, if you call 5 contractors to do something, you might get an answer from one.
Right.
And they're all complaining about not having enough business, especially right now. Okay, well, answer your dang phone and you'll have more business than you could probably deal with, right? So it's not just tours and activities. I actually feel like the tour and activity space does a really good job in some respects because it's such a customer experience product. Like your whole product is them having a great time and enjoying themselves. So I'm not saying that they're all, everybody's perfect. It's just that usually it's the volume of inquiries that tend to be the problem, I think, more than anything else. But I know everybody's a little different. So it's definitely not just tours and
Yeah.
activities that happen.
Yeah, I think the issue that I've run into in that front is not that not that franchisees won't answer their phones. It's that maybe they are on the phone with someone and someone else is calling, and like, or they're helping out on site and someone's calling and they can't answer it right away, and they do call back quickly, but even that, a couple seconds after missing the phone call is so important because customers are just going to call the next business, that is doing the same thing that your business is doing or something similar. And at least sending them a text saying, "Hey, sorry, we're assisting other customers right now. How can we help you?" keeps them kind of like in your ecosystem. So they're not just running away and calling a competitor, to use someone else's service. So even I find that like even the operators that are super hands-on do miss phone calls just because it happens. I mean, you can't be off of the phone every single minute so that you can answer a new phone call because you're on the phone when a new call's coming in, and it just, it can get overwhelming, especially like for us. It's the tour time's at 11 a.m. and 4 people all call at 10:45 telling us that there's traffic or that they're running a little behind, or and it's like all of these things happen at one time, and how do you manage like 4 different inbound things at once? And it's a really easy way to kind of like spread that workload out over, a little bit of space. But yeah, I think that it's super interesting that it's a way to help with that. And a lot of operators in our space do just give the tours themselves, and like they can't answer the phone while they're out on tours, right? I mean, that's tough.
Well, it's not just
Yes.
calls too, right? The other part of the problem is they're coming in through a lot of different channels now, through social media messages, through email, through chat, and some of it I feel like is just an organization problem. Like it's hard to keep track of where the messages are coming through, and it's easy to lose track of things.
I think the other part of it is like the solution is more staffing, right? That's ultimately the commonplace solution right now is, okay, we need more humans, right? But I personally think you don't need more humans for all of it. I mean, I am a human. I married one. I have 2 human kids, so I'm not against humans. But let's be real. Who wants to do the grunt work if you don't have to? So like one of the things that we're going to be announcing this week, or maybe next, this is already going to be the end of the week, is the voice AI, which is okay, so let's say you don't answer a call. We could have it roll over to a voice AI. It does an amazing job. I mean, it's not perfect, but it does. You'll see. I did a couple videos. It's a freaking awesome job of just either fielding calls, getting people information. It could text people information. So if they need your location, like you said, it's 10:45. They're running late. They don't know where they can meet you. Great. It could send a text right from the chat or right from the conversation on the phone. It's pretty awesome. But the point of it is either you're going to have to hire somebody, and then it's like, well, I got to hire a person, but they're only really going to be busy during those peak hours. So now what am I going to do? Like hire them for the full day if I really only need them for a couple hours a day, or just for my overflow? And then you got to like bring them on, onboard them, train them, manage them, right? It's a lot of work when for a lot of this stuff, maybe not all of it, you could have very simple processes, whether it's automation or AI, that can do some of that kind of grunt work. And if it requires a human, say the word human, get put on with a human if it needs it, right? So it's not like you don't give people the option. You just give them the option when it's necessary. And I actually read a stat. I look at this. It's actually 2 years old now, but it said that 46% of customers don't care if they deal with a human or an AI agent as long as they get what they're looking for in a timely manner. 46%. That's a 2-year-old
Yeah.
stat.
That's probably
I
going
guess
way up.
probably around the same stat now, or maybe a little bit higher.
It's up,
But
yeah.
and I fall in that category. Look, if I don't have to deal with a human and wait for 5 minutes and have you read my ticket and do all this, and your AI could tell me why this thing ain't working, that's great for me. You just saved me 5 or 10 minutes. So I'm in that boat. Of course, I'm a little bit biased, but I still think that when, you're just looking for basic information, why have to do that the hard way?
I'm curious what you three think, because we're having this debate right now. Would you rather talk to a live human who has an accent, who's offshore, or an AI?
I guess it depends how the accent is.
Well, that's what I'm curious
Okay.
about. A lot of people are having this, like typically a lot of people look at offshoring when it comes to customer service for all the reasons you said. The hours are kind of chunky. It's really expensive to hire US based people. And then half the time they're not going to have a lot to do. So then naturally you can look at these offshoring services where you're training your own team there that are a lot more affordable. And they're real human beings. But a lot of people don't like talking to people who are offshore. Like as soon as you hear the accent, there's this kind of distaste, like this company is doing something I don't like, and they're not gonna be able to communicate with me. I'm sure it was 40% or whatever you said 2 years ago. It's still gonna be a lot of people, once they realize they're talking to an AI, who are gonna be annoyed. What I'm wondering is what's more annoying? A
Yeah.
live, blood pumping human being who happens to live in the Philippines or Colombia, or a lifeless machine who's pumping out information to you? What do you guys think is less
Oh
annoying?
man. As long as they can get you the information correctly and quickly, I think that's where the frustration usually happens, is
Yeah.
because you run in circles on these phone calls, and it takes 10 minutes to understand what your needs are when, someone that's potentially, closer or has been in your business for years can get you that information in 30 seconds. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, it's a good question. I do think that AI might annoy me a little bit more than an actual human, because I feel like all of my questions have follow-up questions, and that's, it's always like, can AI understand the nuance of the question is the tough part.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm in the same boat. I mean, I guess I would still, even though I think voice AI is great, I think a human might be okay. But like I said, I mean, what we're putting together, you wouldn't even know it's an AI unless you really
You tell
listen.
them, right? Like if
I
you
mean,
call your service,
but I mean, right now I'm just saying you don't have to. Like, there's nothing that says, "Hey, I'm an AI assistant here to help you." I mean, I think it makes sense to do that.
yeah. As a
Yeah.
Obviously,
consumer, I think I'd be annoyed if I
yeah.
was tricked and then like halfway through the conversation, I realized I'm talking to ChatGPT. I would be upset by that, like, are you human? No, I'm not, but I'm here to help. And I'd be like, oh, fuck off. I
It's
could just
funny
spend 2
because
minutes talking to a machine and it tricked me and you didn't tell me.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I guess you could definitely do it. I actually programmed the one where we have as a demo to say, "Hey, let's not get personal now." That's basically the response I would give, like, because there's people that are going to do that. But I was just messing around. But yeah, I mean, you could definitely tell people, "Hey, I'm the AI assistant." But again,
Yeah.
it's at the testing, I guess. As it rolls out more, maybe more people will adopt it, and It's either, because honestly, it's either, well, you have two options. You got the human rollover, which is a greater human phone, or you've got AI. But the reality is there's a third option. Nobody gets the phone, right? So the AI is better than nobody.
Exactly.
And humans are probably better than AI for that reason. But no, you know what I mean? So it's like it's either between humans or nobody. Typically, it's not between, these other two options is what I tend to see. So
Mm.
that's my
Yeah.
opinion anyway.
Yeah.
I think I agree. I think there's tier 1 customer service, which is someone always picks up, right? Like that has to happen no matter what, because that's always better than not picking up. And then like the higher value person is like the franchisee, the manager, the operator can step in when necessary. And the idea is that that process should be really seamless, where they can get the information quickly with tier 1 if they need it, and if it needs to be escalated, it happens really smoothly and easily to the third party, to the whatever the high value person to talk to.
Yeah. So one of the things we put together was like a warm transfer. So like, just to give you an idea of like kind of what you're saying is like, we could find out, do you have an existing booking or not? Right. Because maybe you say, well, if they have an existing booking, I want them talking to somebody because it might be very nuanced, like you said, Justin. Or if it's just a new booking, maybe you want to transfer to somebody to do sales, right? Maybe that's what you want.
Yeah.
And then you could have it warm transfer. If the person's asking for this or you don't have an answer, then tell them you'll transfer them to somebody in the team, right? So it could just be a triage. There's a few different use cases.
Yeah.
There's the after hours, because you're not going to staff that at all. There's the rollover. So you missed a call. You want humans to answer, but you were too busy. So the AI picked up the ones you couldn't get. And then there's also the triage, where we use an IVR for this right now, where you can press 1 for this, press 2 for that. But now it can triage some of the calls for you, but also give out information, not just be, receiving information, but also, yeah, I'm calling for your location. Okay, great. You'd like me to send you a text? Okay, sure. It texts you right there. That call's ended. That person's been taken care of. You don't have to deal with it. So there's a few different like use cases for it, but I don't think like I would be hesitant, even me personally, to just roll it out for every call that came in, irrespective of any. I think that would probably be.
You say the AI
Right.
does warm transfers?
It will do warm transfers. Yes. I'll let you guys demo the demo bot I have with fake tour.
Yeah,
right?
I'd love to. I'd love to.
Yeah, it's pretty.
Yeah. So cool. I think the missing, like the next step is it being able to know your availability and help with a booking, right? And like get people through that, because I think that's where, I don't know, maybe 40% of my phone calls are typically about availability, or we're sold out, but they're curious if they can still get out on the water, or, whatever it is, it's like availability based. So is that going to have that functionality, you think, in the short term, long term? Like, does it connect to booking softwares?
It's possible, but it just depends on the APIs from the different platforms. It's not easy to get some of this booking data from. I mean, you can sometimes pull the availability, but then like writing a new booking is a whole other thing, and then taking payment. So like right now, in the current situation is, if somebody wants to book something, we either have the AI transfer to a human to make that booking, or it could also send them a link to that tour and activity where they can just see the availability online. Because like the answer I gave this particular demo bot was, hey, availability fills up fast. If you want to know real-time availability, I can text you a link with that tour's, page. You can see the availability. Because again, that's like also liability wise, I don't want to have the AI do something crazy and then people are missing out on booking, right? That's not great for right now. Maybe it'll get better in the future, but we're not there yet.
It seems like a serious limitation though, right? Like I feel like most calls that come in, or a lot of them, are either interested in booking or talking about an existing booking.
Yeah. I mean, you can, again, right now, so the existing booking part, like for the AI chat, because we have some of that detail, we can actually see what their booking is, when it is, what it's for, and then like provide responses in return to that. But it's not quite there on the voice side yet. I think that will be probably in the next quarter, where it could, as long as they're pulling the data, we're pulling the data in, we'll have it there with that person's phone number. Again, if they're calling from the same phone number that's part of the booking. If they're not, then that could be a little bit more tricky, because you don't know what booking they're referring to, right? So I think there's going to be some use case for that, but again, it'll just get better over time. I mean, right now it's the worst it will ever be, so it's only going to get better. It's pretty good for the use cases I mentioned, a rollover and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think it's clear that there's when calls come in, it either needs to, whether it's AI or a person for an existing booking, versus like when it's in someone who's trying to book, there's a huge opportunity for sales and to get like a closer on the phone. So there's a lot of different ways right now that you can differentiate. You can have an AI agent figure it out. You can have a call tree. You can just push everyone to the, uh, you know, the details or the existing booking person and have them forward it to sales. Like, what options do people have right now to like differentiate those calls?
Talking to me?
Yeah. Sorry.
With,
Yeah.
with
Like
the AI,
what?
with the AI situation that we're talking about, then I mean that's it. You have IVR, like you mentioned. So press 1 if you have an
Yeah.
existing booking. Press 2 if you're new.
Okay.
Looking to book something new. But that's exactly what the AI agent will do too. It'll find out.
Mhm.
It'll ask, "All right, do you have an existing booking? If so, then you can make it do something specific with that."
Okay.
And then we tag it that way. So, inside conversion system, we'll tag like what was the outcome of the call. So you can do like a AI summary and a disposition, and also like the call transcript can get emailed to you. But we can also tag it like why they called, new booking,
Yeah.
existing booking, just had questions, or what
Yeah.
was the outcome? I transferred it, or I took care of the call. That way we know later on. Well, okay, let's look at all the calls the bot took and all these contacts.
Hmm.
What happened? Oh, look, he transferred a bunch of them, didn't transfer a bunch. That means we saved time on those people, things like that. So you have a little more visibility to actually what's going on at a level where you can report on it, not just have to read 100 transcripts to know. Like that would be super annoying. So it's not really much different than what you can do with an IVR, except again, it's a little bit more interactive and it can think on its feet. So here's one common use case example that could be helpful is like on the demo video that I'm going to be releasing here soon. Like I asked the bot, hey, what's something fun for me and the boys, something exciting, right? And I programmed it to have my fake pig ATV wrestling tour, right? Because I just think it's funny. And so it's like, oh, we have something perfect for you. And I didn't tell it to say these words. Like it just took the description of the tour and was like, oh, this is going to be perfect for you. It's not for the faint hearted. It was just hilarious, but it answered like it described the tour because I was asking what's good for families. Oh, our sightseeing tour is great. You'll see manatees and dolphins and this and that. So even if you fed it information to kind of give people that ability to learn about what you offer because they don't know what's good, then that could be helpful as well. But again, there's a lot of different use cases, guys. I mean, like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't go down too far of a rabbit hole. It's just that if it has the information, it could do a really good job of kind of not keeping a person on the phone, a human on the phone for 5 minutes, talking about every tour, and they're gonna be like, oh gosh, what other tour this person want to ask about? I know they're not enjoying that phone call either anymore, right? So
Yeah.
there's ways you can do it, and then again, try to feed people down different paths based on how that conversation goes.
Yeah. This is
Cool.
clearly where things are headed, whether it happens now in a quarter, next year, whatever it is. How do people like start kind of compiling what they need to have to make that experience better when they are ready to try to introduce this to their business? Like, what do they need when you introduce an AI bot into the system? How can people like start now taking some steps to make it an easier transition when they are ready to take that next step?
It comes down to knowing what your customer journey should look like. And if we're talking about things on the front end like that, then you just have to have a lot of FAQs. You want to know what customers typically ask and how to answer it, and think about some nuances there. So like if somebody says, hey, what time is my tour? Okay, well, what tour are we talking about, sir? Like, do we even know who you are at that point, right? So the things that you might be able to ascertain as a human are not going to be, you just want to make sure you account for those things. But the biggest thing is going to be what you want to happen, an ideal outcome, kind of how to like brand people off. They start here. How do we get them from on this phone call to whatever that next step is? And there's going to be multiple paths, new customers, existing customers, complaints, whatever that is. They're just really mapping it out. If you map out what you want to happen, and then you know what the interaction points are in that process, then you typically just want to create, okay, here's what I want to have happen. Here's the kind of questions and answers I want to make sure that it has, so it could be available. And then I want to have a fallback. What happens if it doesn't know the answer? Well, then I want it to kick it over to a human. I want it to transfer to a human or notify a human or something, whether it's a voice AI or an AI chat or whatever it is. You just have to have a fallback. I mean, it's not much different than what you would teach a human.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, if I got the job with you guys today and a call comes in, how do I answer it? What do I say? What's the greeting? What happens if they're pissed? What do I do then? Who do I transfer the call to? Right? It's no different than your human SOPs, really.
Yeah.
Where, Dustin, if you 2-3 years from now, do you think like AI voice is gonna be everywhere? Like if I call American Airlines or Bank of America, like 100%, I'm going to be talking to AI.
I mean, you already are. If you call the bank right now, they're going to tell you, tell me your phone number, right? They already do. They've been doing
But
that for
that's not
10 years.
AI, right? Like they do
I
like
mean,
basic voice recognition and there's basic logic, but there's no like LLM behind those call
well, that's true,
services.
but I don't think the use case for LLM is going to be that much better for a small business because you still have a knowledge base, right? That's how the banks are doing. That's how you would do it. You
Yeah.
wouldn't have an AI that's going to answer questions about life, like philosophy. So you don't need the LLM part in that respect. I think it's going to be more knowledge based, which is what the
Yeah.
bank is doing
Kind of like
now.
notebook LM, like very similar. You're just compiling a bunch of in-house sources,
Yeah,
essentially. You
yeah,
don't really need the extra
yeah.
step.
Yeah, I think it will. I mean, I think I heard something from Mark Zuckerberg said that he thinks this is going to be something that every business will have in I don't know how many years. He said there's a quote from him recently about it, but I mean, I think it will be probably just like voicemail,
Mhm.
probably a better option than voicemail at least, if nothing else. It may not replace people full time, but I just can't see.
Mm.
It's just a much better experience, even if you miss the call. If you just have the bot kind of handle the call, people have call centers for after hours. What do? They literally
Mhm.
take a message.
Yeah.
That's what they do. So why can't you have an AI agent do the same thing?
I think the
You know?
value for small businesses is especially clear for this, right? Because
I think so.
for all the reasons we talked about, for
Yeah.
off hours or when you're busy, like this has to be more useful for us than almost anyone else because it's such a big pain point, that everyone has.
I think so. I mean, if you can get an extra 1 to 2 bookings a month, or you can save yourself however many hours of staff, pay you'd have to have, or you can just make your life easier to a certain extent. I feel like that will more than cover the cost of implementing something like this, which is not terribly expensive. You know what I mean? So it doesn't take much to break even on something like this. You're talking a few $100 a month typically versus,
And your time,
now.
right? Depending on how much of your time as the operator you're saving too. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I
Yeah.
mean. Your time, staff time, customer experience might be better. Get extra few bookings out of it, and that win.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's move on from calls. I'm curious. The post customer journey is something that I've, obviously you and I have talked a lot, Dustin, about. But I think a lot of people miss this mark when they're just starting, even years in. I mean, I didn't really have a process for post customer journey until, the last 2 or 3 months. Where does Conversion Assist play into that, and like how do you really leverage what you've built to communicate with customers more, to build retention, to do all of those things? Because I think this is one of the big missing pieces in our industry is the post tour customer journey. Nothing happens afterwards other than us asking them for a review.
Yeah. Yeah. So a couple of things that we do that I know you're aware of, but for everybody else. So like we pull all the data in from the ResTech side. So we know when people are going out on bookings and things like that. So like we send out the reminders, you can do upsells. So let's say somebody books today, you want to upsell them. This is a little bit, not on the lifetime part yet, but let's just say you want to sell them something else after they booked, right? That could be before their trip. That could be just after their trip, right? You want to continue that sale process on. But irrespective of that, you've got long-term nurture. So we built out like a 3-year holiday and seasonal email campaign that any operator could use. I'm going to write all the emails yourself. And that will stay in front of them pretty much once a month, a little bit more toward the holiday time. And it's not meant to be promotional. It's just meant to be on Thanksgiving, you thank them for being a customer. And you do that for 36 months. And you just do it for the change of the seasons, the holidays based on the US. And that just helps you become the operator they remember. So when somebody's like, hey, you went to Florida, you did that cool kayak thing, what was it called? They can find you in their email because you've actually been communicating with them over time, if nothing else. And we also do an email campaign that goes out basically 2 years, but it touches them twice in 2 years, which is based on their last booking date. So being a Florida native, I'm not there now, but I grew up there my entire life. People will come down every year to the same place. So I used to work on the beach. I see the same people every summer, every winter. It was great. I loved it. And people are probably going to do that in some markets, maybe not all of them, maybe not Alaska, maybe not Hawaii, because they're more bucket list locations. But we send them out an email 9 months after their last booking, because if they're going to plan to come into town, that's probably around the time you might want to get in front of them. And then if, let's say they skip a year, we email them again 12 months after that. So you got basically 2 years around the time that they probably planned or came to visit. You're sending out an email that just invites them, hey, if you're back in town, come see us, that kind of a thing. You could also add a promo to that. You can do those sort of things if you want, but that's just one way that is, it takes no effort from you. If they book again, they do not get that email. It just resets their booking date to the next 9 months and 21 months after that booking, right? So we do that as well as like a thank you email campaign, which sounds pretty basic. You just thank people after they book, but it also helps your email deliverability because a lot of times they'll get opened. And then that's another kind of a new thing. If you're not doing anything and you're getting started with things like email or nurture, you want to start off a little bit small. You don't want to blast your 20,000 people list. If you've never emailed, you might want to start with like things that are very easy to get open. So your open rate looks good and your domain reputation's decent. So those are a couple of things for their birthday. If you want to send people an email or a text or something on their birthday, totally up to you if you want to get creative with it. And this is coming from like, let's say you're getting waiver signed and we pull in the waiver data for Smart Waiver Werewolf, then we know when their birthday is. You have to capture it, obviously, and then we could just send them a message on their birthday. And they're like, oh, wait, cool. This is pretty nice. They remembered my birthday. How'd they even know it? Who knows, right? But you could be a person that's telling them happy birthday or give them a promo for their birthday or, whatever that is, that kind of a thing. So those are some of the simple ways you can do it. Obviously, you can do more advanced stuff if you want to send promos within like, one-off promos along that time as well. You could definitely do that. But those are like the things we built in like right from scratch. So people have at least a few years of nurturing that list. And then any additional promos they do on top of that, they could do
That's
that as
cool.
well. Yeah.
What kind of
it's huge.
what kind of data do you see for doing these post-booking nurturing campaigns in terms of, customer retention and conversion rates? Do you see it being really high, like
I
significantly
mean,
higher than like cold leads, I'd imagine?
it's hard for me to measure because people don't like necessarily interact with the email to book again. So it's hard, and it's hard to know, did they do it because of the email or did they do it because they were just going to come back in town? But I don't really have like clear defined data to say if we didn't do this nurture campaign, we didn't get that result, just to be completely transparent with you. But I know that a lot of people, when we've done like a promo blast in the past, and I've done this a couple years back, we did this to somebody's bookings from about a year prior. They did 5 figures in sales from that group of people, and they weren't even just all locals. So that was basically a 3-month promo ran over summer that resulted in 5 figures, like almost 20 grand in revenue that may or may not have been there before just from doing a promo. So that's just a promo, not to mention staying in front of them. And I do think that there's value, but it's hard to measure a direct attribution to because they may not book right there from that email. You know what I mean? It's hard to say for sure, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I like that. You can also kind of utilize this as a email service. Instead of needing to go and get the Mailchimp or a different email service, you can do this all in there. And to take it a step further, like as you're getting customers into Conversion Assist, you guys tag them with like what activity they booked. So for me, where I have 30 different locations and then like 45 different activities amongst those 30 different locations, if you want to only target the people that have done like manatee tours with Get Up and Go kayaking and send them an e-blast to try and come do non-manatee season stuff, like we can do that. So I think it's like, I don't know, it's just really cool that for me, it's also like replace some external systems that like didn't communicate with each other and sometimes a little clunky trying to do something unique as that scenario. It allows you to do some of that, and I think that part is where there's a lot of value in it too. Is you can uncover some cool opportunities that way. And I already for next year, I know manatee season starts November 15th here in Florida. So you better bet like the beginning of November, like November 1st for next year, we're going to send out an e-blast to anyone that one did manatee season last year saying, hey, come back and do it again. But 2, the people that didn't do manatee season last year with us, we could say, hey, are you interested in seeing manatees? And the messaging just between the 2 differences there, I think is a really cool way to succeed in digital marketing. It allows you to be much more specific to who you're targeting and the messaging that you're sending that person. And it's just a really cool way to be able to use your customer data that you're already working so hard to get and I think one of the other big things, Dustin, maybe that you want to touch on is the TripAdvisor, the Viator automation that you have set up when someone books through like affiliates. I think that part is awesome.
Yeah. So that's basically a way
Are
to
you a
get their real
client,
email.
Justin? Are you a client of Dustin's? Do you use Conversion Assist?
Yeah, he helped me build kind of our own internal thing
Right.
through, but it's the same process set up, as Conversion Assist would be.
Right.
So I would say yes, like I use Conversion Assist. It's just in our own kind of ecosystem, but yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, the tour, so the OTA thing. Well, if people get bookings through TripAdvisor, Get Your Guide, Project Expedition, basically you get a real phone number and a fake email. So what we do is we basically text the person to get a real email. That's what we do.
Yeah, that's
It's
great.
pretty basic, but you want an email that's gonna last.
You
So
just
we just
ask.
send them a message.
Yeah.
And we're like, hey, we want to make sure you have your best email on file. Do you mind sharing that with us? And then the system automatically pulls it from their response because they'll give us an email response. Now we update it, and now they're good to go. So that's kind of a ninja hack, I guess, in a way. Or we go,
Dustin,
why
yeah,
not?
you're all over those ninja hacks, man. I was talking to like what your service is just like a combination of these little things that everyone kind of wished they were doing. Like I was on the phone with an operator last week who was just like, I would give anything if I could automatically text our customers pickup details the morning of. It's like not a feature of any of these systems. And I was like, Conversion Assist does it.
Yeah, that's the most basic of things.
It's simple, but you gotta. I mean, it saves these operators so many calls. It's pretty cool. So you're doing everything from like a little text to like handling incoming inquiries with AI. I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah, and the other part, Justin, like you mentioned, I feel like one of the things that people don't do enough, and you're doing a good job, is like looking at the data and looking at like the upsell, cross-sell opportunities. Because if you know that, like you just said, somebody that did this, you want to promote that, you can build that into an automation that does it automatically for you. You don't even have to make it manual if you know what that process should look like. So, okay, they booked this thing. We want to message them 48 hours after that booking ends with this other thing. You don't have to manually do that as long as you know what's going to happen, who's it's going to happen for, and when it will happen. You can automatically do that through our system. And not only that, but there's also like the local marketing. So I feel like I'm the only person who cares. I feel like it's one of those things like I feel like I care more than other people do, but nobody ever talks about getting the locals to come back. And I was a Florida local. So I was a local, right? So I want to do fun things too. It's not just about the travelers. I live there. I want to do fun things, but they're not marketing to me. So why don't you just have to, this is one other thing that you can put in place is anybody who's got a phone number with the area code local to you, then give them off-season or shoulder season discounts or something. Get them to come back, right? Why don't people do that? If they're local, they might bring more people with them because you don't have to travel a lot of people. So give them reasons to come back in a group.
Yeah.
Send out marketing messages. Hey, looking for something fun to do on 4th of July, book this group excursion or whatever. Like you could just do that if you wanted to, because the lift, like to push somebody to come 30-minute drive with their friends is a lot easier than to get them to fly back in.
Yeah.
But nobody talks about that.
And tourism
the other thing is
markets,
affiliates and partnerships.
Yeah.
Nobody markets their affiliates and their partners. Why don't you want to stay in front of them? Yeah, okay, you have an affiliate relationship with them, but you haven't talked to them in 6 months. Okay, great. Wouldn't it be great to just send them a drip email with all the fun people are having, invite them to come back out, invite them to bring a group? I mean, whatever that is, it's nurture those relationships. It doesn't have to just be B2C, B2C all the time. It could be B2B, or it could be partnerships or affiliate related, things like that, where, again, there's the whole cold outreach part of it, which we won't talk about, but that's a whole another animal.
Yeah,
it's like
can of worms.
people and marketing to them, to get them to become an affiliate for you, or to hop on a call, or to get a free trip or something like that. I don't know, but I feel like there's more opportunity that people have, and everybody's focused on bottom of the funnel, and that's great because I'm a bottom of the funnel guy, but I feel like that's not going to work long term forever. You want to have all other things contributing to your success. So yeah.
I think the question. I was gonna say no. I think a question that lives in all of our minds, like rent free, is how much? Like, are we leaving a lot of money on the table, and if so, how much? And I think we can all honestly answer that. Like, probably isn't tens of thousands, but hundreds of thousands, especially in operations like Kai's and Andrew or Kai's and Justin's when it's so big. So yeah, a lot of this stuff is really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, where do you find that, and I think just knowing my journey, like I didn't know where to start, I guess, in doing all of that, all of these things we've been talking about. And um it's a little overwhelming to think, oh wow, I need to email all these people, I need to figure out their area codes. And the good thing is I know you
Mhm.
guys like automate a lot of that, Dustin, but
Yeah.
a lot of operators are giving the tours, or they're communicating with their tour guides, and they're running a business, and they sometimes need to take a step back and look at it more of like they're running a marketing firm, and that marketing firm just so happens to give kayak tours, or that marketing firm just so happens to give trolley tours or paddle pub tours or whatever that may be. And so I think people just, it's overwhelming to people because they get into it and they don't know that like you've got to do all of these extra things to be capturing and retaining and communicating. And like there's just, the list could go on. You could give yourself unlimited amount of work if you really wanted to in this industry, and still feel like, how much money am I missing out, to Brett's point, like how much money did I leave on the table? So it's crazy. There's a lot to do, but I think that's where people like Conversion Assist and others come in to fill that gap, because most people aren't going to spend the time to learn how to do all of this. Most people don't want to even spend the time, or don't want to learn how to do it, because it's too much based on what they're already doing in their daily life. So um just from you, why should people use Conversion Assist? What do you think that, like, where's the low hanging fruit opportunities for people that are maybe missing out on their daily because they're stuck in the business so much,
Yeah, I mean, I say if they like money and they like saving time, and then they should use Conversion Assist, honestly. I can't think of a okay, look, the lowest hanging fruit is typically inbound inquiries. And even if we just send that person a missed call text, you missed their call, send them a text, recover that revenue. That right there will typically pay for the cost of the system for most operators. That typically will. And I've heard that from people directly. That is the one feature, because you're basically creating something out of nothing. You already paid to acquire that traffic. You've already invested 100% of what it costs to acquire that lead, and now it's gone. So if you can recover even a percentage of those, you're going to be ahead, because again, the cost to implement the system is not crazy expensive, but that to me is the easiest, lowest hanging fruit that you'll see an instant ROI from, because you already know you missed that call. And the fact that that conversation continued and you booked that person is a pretty good indication that it worked, right? So that's just one way, without using anything fancy, without using any AI, without worrying about 3-year nurture sequences, which are all included as well. Then that's one easy way to do it. I feel like that's probably the lowest hanging fruit. And then time savings or cost savings. So like you mentioned before, if you're using MailChimp and then you're using Zapier, then you're using something like Podium, and you're using something else for, calendaring, and you need to put that all in one place. We have it all in one place. So you're going to save subscriptions that, are nickel and diming you to death, to one that will quarter you to death, I guess, that will combine it, right? But it'll all be in one place. So like, that's great, because if things break, they tend to break a little bit less because they're all in one system, but then you can train your team on it faster. It's more efficient. We're pulling in messaging, like Kai mentioned before, messaging from social media, messaging from text, from phone calls, all live in one like stream for each contact. So you don't lose like potential of seeing leads that are coming to other channels in one place. So like the consolidation of things is a time, effort, and stress saving situation that you don't really realize until you have it. Because you're like, crap, I only got to check one thing now. I have to check 6 different apps just to get what I need. So I think that's another aspect for it as well. And then the customer experience, like saving time on those last minute, people get that info, that day of booking text, and it has the link to the map. It's got a link to the waivers. They didn't sign the waiver. All those things, they know where to go. They know where parking is, right? That's going to save you the headache and your staff the headache of people being late, showing up late. Now they're pissed off. They're going to leave you bad reviews, not because it's your fault. It was their fault. It doesn't matter though. They're going to take it out on you. But having that automation in place that makes it convenient for the customer helps you look like a rock star, because you're basically one step ahead of where they're going to be, right? And that's the one big thing for me for customer service. I always want to try to like, what's the word? Like plan for the next step and have it already taken care of. And if you can do that in the touring activity space, people will appreciate it because you're on vacation. Maybe you're hungover. You're not looking through email for that booking thing that you did 3 months ago. But if you get a text like, okay, here goes the map. Awesome. I know where to go. Here's where we're going. Like, great. Very timely, very helpful. I feel like those just couple things right there make it a no-brainer. And, that's just my opinion. Obviously, I'm a bit biased, but that's just the simplest stuff you could do that's built into the system.
Yeah.
And like you mentioned earlier, Justin, I mean, you don't have to be an expert. The way we did this was not to sell people, here's a software, go figure it out. What we did is we said, you buy the software. We've got a bunch of stuff that we know works for the niche, right? Now we'll kind of tweak it a little bit to your processes and your messaging if you need to, which a lot of people don't. They're happy with what we have. And then you let it run. And if you want to get advanced and do all these cool things that we talked about today with locals and this and that, then that's stuff you can do as well, or ask for our help and we'll try to help you out. But you don't have to do it to get a big chunk of this to work. You literally just answer your phone. And if people chat in through our chat widget or whatever, you respond through the app on your phone or on your desktop. That's all you have to do.
Yeah.
Like that's the most basic level of use. Everything else will work in the background. Just give us your access, give us your information and go do business. Like it will just work. So that's kind of the way I built it because I wanted something that doesn't require a lot of effort. And then for the people like me who want to nerd out and they want to go further with it, they have the option. Go in there and nerd out, create automation, create list of people, do all that stuff if you want to. But if you don't want to, you don't have to. You'll still get a result from it. So that's the long answer to your short question.
Yeah. No, it makes so much sense. And, I think of like all of the big brands that I have purchased clothes from or whatever from, like, how many texts did they send me in the month of December is obnoxious, And then in our industry, how many of us are sending our customers texts? And it's like zero. It's like no one in our industry is like constantly pinging our customers to come back out. And yeah, maybe that is overkill to do it the way that I've received it from some of these big brands. But I do think that there's a big gap between what we do and what they do. And this is a good kind of bridge in between. And I think one other part of it too is the reviews. We haven't touched much on reviews, but I really enjoy the review side of things that are in the system, and I've seen an increase in our reviews, which I think is super helpful and super important. And you can actually like see how many requests have gone out compared to how many people have reviewed. So like I now get a really good understanding of like what my average request sent out to review ratio actually is, so if I'm sending out 100 requests, but only getting 10 actual reviews, I know that my ratio is like 10%, And so I can compare that across locations and be able to understand maybe why that is and stuff like that. So there's some really cool like review automations that live inside of all of this that I think is another little like hidden gem that, again, it's one of those things that people all want more reviews, but what are they actually doing to get more reviews? And even for me, like using Fair Harbor, they send that text out after the tour along with the follow-up email. But if a customer tried to reply to that text that Fair Harbor sent out, it literally just goes nowhere. The operator does not get that response. And so if we can do that ourselves and as the operators, we can get the response, then great. Maybe we can save someone that text back saying, I actually had an awful time. Like this sucked. Like now I can, okay, let me like resolve this, figure this out. Let me calm the situation. In the past, like I didn't get that, there was I didn't get the response. So I think there's some cool little like hidden things that happen in there too, that just, at the end of the day, they all add value as an operator to the customer. And if you can continually add value, you can continually raise the price of what you're doing and what you're offering. And that goes directly to your bottom line. That raising your price is literally the one biggest thing that you can do to increase your bottom line. Like today, if your price is $50 and tomorrow you raise it to 55, that extra $5 went right to your bottom line. You didn't add an expense. You just get to keep an extra $5, So
assuming
I
demand
actually have a
stays
stat on
constant.
that one too.
Yeah. Assuming demand is still there when you raise your price, correct.
Yeah, I actually have a
yeah.
stat for that I shared the same as the other stat earlier, which was, and let me see what the source of that was. I can find it. I don't have the source handy, but consumers will pay a 16% price premium for a great customer experience. That was another stat. So 16%, okay, that's not nothing. It's ahead of inflation. Well, at least we hope
Yeah.
it'll be ahead basically for a while. But I mean, yeah, it doesn't hurt. And if you know that you're gonna have a great time, especially for groups, right? If you have like think about group experience, everybody wants to get groups, but what if you gave a single person that represents a group a crappy experience? What if you gave an awesome experience? And they'd be like, crap, we got to bring the whole group out here. This is amazing.
Yeah.
That could be good for you as well.
Yeah. I love it, man. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing all this information. It's super useful. You know, even if people don't end up working with Conversion Assist or an extra thing, I think they should really get their wheels spinning on how to communicate with customers more, how to retain customers, how to capture more customer. Like, there's so many things that I think like this solves a lot of problems, which is great. But people really need to start thinking about that more, because I use that example a lot of like, how many times do you get texted from those big brands that you've purchased from in the past? And how many times have you ever got texted like that from a tour operator that you've
Right.
booked with in the past? And it's always like, oh, the big brands 100 times and local operators 0. It's just, there's such a big gap between that. And I look at this as like a really good way to fill that space.
Yeah, one little secret, or not even secret, I guess another hack, like Brett likes me to say. But
Ninja hack. as
yeah,
Brett says.
well, so like one of the things you can do with those texts is like don't make it just a one-off text. So those brands are texting
Mhm.
you, here's a link to the promo, click here, buy, right?
Yeah.
But you could start it off, and you could use conversions to do this, of course. But you could start off with basically a person-to-person question. Hey, Justin, we have this dolphin tour promo going on right now. Do you mind if I share the details with you? When they reply yes, you share the details. Now it feels like it's coming from a person at this company
Mhm.
that you've been to before. It's more of a conversational text, right? Because what happens in your mind when you get the text from the big brand is, I can ignore this. It's corporate. Nobody's there. When you
Right.
get a text from Susie that asks you if you want to know about their promo because they have availability, you think it's Susie. So maybe you will actually respond to that. So there are some ways that you can use like bulk texting in a more, human way, I guess, or a less corporate kind of sounding way that kind of get you the same end result. And then when they say no, you just say, okay, cool. We'll keep you in mind for any other promos coming up. If they say yes, you just send them the details. All of it's automated. Again, you don't have
That's
to
pretty cool.
manually do that part. But yeah, I learned that from texting out a bunch of people and realizing that they just ignore you. They report you as spam
Mhm.
because they don't think it's coming from a person.
Yeah.
It's coming from a company.
I will say too, the reason why all the big brands shoot you you get all these messages is because it does work, right? To a certain extent,
Yeah.
right? It's not like everyone's like, oh, this is a mass text message. If no one was clicking those links, they would stop doing it. You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, we have a lot to learn from e-commerce. Because at the end of the day, we are e-commerce, right? We're capturing our customers, most of them. Our customer information is coming from the online journey, and direct to consumer e-commerce marketing industry is always like 5-6 years ahead of like where we are today, to Justin's point. So we have a lot to learn from them for sure. There are differences, right? Like, it's a lot easier to buy a pair of jeans than to organize a group to go on a tour.
Mhm.
Right. So there's like this larger sales cycle and some different barriers to entry. And, you can buy a pair of jeans, whether you live in Idaho or Wyoming or Montana. I don't know why I'm stuck in the mountain areas, but you can
You
only
need
get up
jeans
and go
there.
kayaking in certain cities. Right. And
Yeah.
so, the conversion rates can be lower for them, which is part of the reason we don't do it as much. But the reality is these techniques work. And so I think what the collection of, what did you say? Black Ninja
Ninja
underpants
hack.
skills,
Ninja hack.
ninja hacks, like all this stuff, is phenomenal, especially when you put them all together like that. I think is really powerful.
Yep. Agreed.
Amazing. Cool.
Cool.
Well, thanks so much, Dustin. Appreciate
Thanks.
your time and sharing all of your ninja hacks. And we look forward to it. If people can reach out to you and get in touch with you, where would you like them to go?
I mean, honestly, it would probably be our website. You can if you're looking for info on the product or you want to book a call and talk about if it's good for you, you can go to conversionassist.me. Meant to be a play on helping people. That's why the .me is there, but conversionassist.me would be the best place to kind of start a convo or to book a call or to check out kind of what we're doing and how we're doing it.
Yeah, if you want to talk to an AI, just go to conversionassist.me,
Yeah.
and then eventually you'll get to Dustin. No,
Actually,
Dustin-
I do have the AI on there right now. I still do that all manually. I even got crap from somebody that I responded to them 3 minutes after their inquiry, and they said I should be using something. I'm like, well, sorry, I'm gonna do it like human right now. So
Yep.
Well, cool, guys. I hope everyone has a, starts off the year right in 2025. We're looking forward to bringing you more episodes soon.
yeah, man. Take
Nice.
care, guys.
Amazing.